Welcome to episode 1328 of the Multifamily Collective. Tonight I wanted to talk about application fraud in the multifamily space. This is not a new topic. It's been around since the invention of the internet, probably prior to the invention of the internet, people trying to make fraudulent application to get into an apartment home. But it has certainly proliferated with the advent of the internet, and it is certainly borderline out of control at this point. When you can go to internet sites and pull down payroll stubs, pull down other pieces of verification that are germane to the application approval process in the multifamily space, it's just rampant now. And we spend a lot of time in the multifamily space combating fraudulent applications. And there are solutions like Snapped and solutions like Checkpoint ID and others, Vero, and many others that are getting into this fraud space or space of fraud as it relates to applications. But I'm just pondering and wondering and noodling on the idea that there needs to be some extreme measure leveled on the individual that thinks it's appropriate and okay to put down fraudulent information to attempt to get into an apartment home. I have to imagine the number of hours that multifamily people spend or residential people spend fighting fraud is just excessive and out of control. I think extreme language applies here. It's just off the charts. And I don't I don't know how you get to an end, because the second you create a checkpoint ID or a Snapped or a Vero or other workflows that attempt to combat this issue, the bad actors are out there creating the next thing that gets you past it. And even if those particular platforms and others are 80% effective, 90% effective, there are still people that are getting through the systems and the processes that you set up and the platforms that you put in place. People still get through. My speculation is that there has to be some level of consequence along the lines of, if you put a fraudulent application in place at my community and I catch you doing that, I think you have to arrest and prosecute people. and I know it sounds extreme, and maybe not best to meet extreme with extreme, but until you level some kind of real world consequence on people who are attempting to get in for whatever the reason. I understand there are probably some very, very legitimate reasons why people would potentially want to exercise fraud to get into a community. And there could be some that pull on your heartstrings, right? But at the end of the day, it's just become an epidemic in and of itself. Trying to combat the people that get into the communities under bad premise. There has to be some sort of extreme example or extreme consequence leveled on individuals who do that, in order to send a message that it's just not okay. Now, it's an extreme example. Maybe it's light level legislation. I don't know. I don't know what the answer is, but we can't keep doing what we're doing. And even with the Snapped and Checkpoint ID and Vero and others, there are many, many others. Even with those platforms, even with those workflows that attempt to stamp it out, even the old school methodology, right? Calling and actually verifying that somebody has a job, asking for real bank statements that you don't know, you have no confidence. You can't have confidence that they're real anymore. But old school, calling other landlords and hoping that they're honest with you. Even with those methodologies, there's still a tremendous amount of fraud getting through this system, and it's costing a lot of time, a lot of money, a lot of resource, a lot of headache and heartache. People are even fraudulently creating renters insurance documents. Somehow they're creating. We came across this the other day, or a month or so ago. Somebody created a document, a renter's insurance document that was fraudulent, that had all the stuff, right? And there, it just, I don't know how that happens. I'm not sure how that happens, but I do know this: it's costing a lot of money and a lot of time and a lot of resource that can be otherwise invested in creating experiences for individuals who uh, don't attempt to go through a fraudulent exercise to get into an apartment community or a single family home for that matter. There's got to be something that we can do to really put a stop to it. Something has to break. Something has to happen. And I'm afraid that we're getting to a point where it has to be something extreme in order to send the message that it's just not an okay practice to move into a home and do it under false premise and then basically steal rent. Um, it's got to be something. Take care. We'll talk to you again soon.